Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Paris shuts story tonight. Chicago officials and residents are searching for answers after unruly crowds gathered Saturday near Millennium Park. Viral videos showed large crowds of teens disrupting traffic, jumping on cars, and getting into fights downtown. Police say in the loop, 2 teens were shot and 15 arrests were made. Here to share their thoughts on the weekend unrest and how the city can best deal with teen unrest are Nathaniel Viets Van Leer, Director of Youth Development for the youth-focused Chicago nonprofit My Block, My Hood, My City, and Richard Gamble, Chairman of the Board of Directors at the Chicago Loop Alliance. He's also past chair of the Magnificent Mile Association. Thanks to you both for joining us. Richard Gamble, your organization made up of bars, restaurants, hotels, a lot of stores, all kinds of businesses in the Loop. What have you been hearing from your members about what happened Saturday night?
Well, first, our members are really concerned about their customers, their staff, the neighborhood, even the teens that were out there. You could see them having difficult interactions with each other, some of them getting hurt, some of them damaging property. So there was just a general sense of sadness that the event that could have been a celebration and just time out in good weather turned into something that was a little bit less productive and less enjoyable.
Nathaniel, you work with, of course, a lot of kids on the south and west sides, taking them on field trips all around the city, not just downtown to the Loop. What is your reaction when you see that kind of behavior?
Well, it's hard. You never want to see violence in any community. And it's hard also because you understand these young folks, in some ways, they're looking for an outlet, right? Sometimes when you see explosions of youth energy, you see that and you go, oh, that's so unproductive. And instead of thinking back and going, hey, how can we provide resources and spaces where there's a positive outlet for this kind of energy? We were all young once, we were all wild, right? We have all of our stories. We're just not all caught on camera downtown doing those things.
And some of us had access to more activities and things to do. What could that look like? Because clearly it's something that your organization works to make sure that teens have.
For sure, we focus on that through the Explorers program, which exposes young folks to different opportunities in the city. It could be going to Google to learn about the tech industry. It could be making art together. It could be trying new food. We're seeing, especially in this time, that young people are more socially isolated than ever before. They really never leave their block. They may never leave their neighborhood. And so even going downtown would be something new and fresh for them. So we're trying to expose them to new opportunities because we want the city to feel like home. And you always respect places that you feel like are closer to home.
And if I can, the pandemic had everyone kind of trapped in their homes. So this is really one of the first years post-pandemic where things are open, the weather was nice, and it's a great opportunity to get out and enjoy the parks. There's more programming coming, so there'll be a lot of reasons for people to come out and enjoy.
Of course, you know, as it heats up in Chicago, the city historically sees crime increase. Richard, do you and your business members in the Loop Alliance, would you like to see a greater police presence?
I think there's a balance. Would we like to see a better, stronger police presence? We work very well with the police today. You see the cars that are on the street, there's foot patrols, there's biking officers, so there is a police presence. I think the business community just wants to make sure that when events happen, that there's a communication and a responsiveness and, quite frankly, ability to be proactive and anticipate some of those things. We also want to make sure that we have partners like My Block, My Hood, My City that have programs that youth can participate in addition to the many, many programs that the city puts on through the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. They have a lot of programming that everyone can enjoy.
Currently, the city has a 10 p.m. curfew for teens 17 and under, and in Millennium Park specifically, teens need to be with an adult after 6, Thursday through Sunday. Richard, are you seeing that enforced?
We are, however, when you get close to that hour, there are always stragglers. So, you know, it's a normal dynamic, but for the most part, yes, we are seeing that enforced.
Nathaniel, what about you? Should that curfew be enforced?
I think that could be a soft stop to maybe what we're seeing. Of course, like you noted, the warm weather, right? It came out of nowhere, broke records everywhere, right? So we're going to see some weird behavior with that weird seasonal weather. But I think as we move towards the summer, what we want to start thinking of, how can we invite young people downtown in ways that are safe and sustainable, provide productive activities for them to do. On July 8th, we're actually hosting Downtown Day, where we're going to welcome hopefully 1,000 young people from all around the city to engage in positive things in the city, go to museums, engage in restaurants. We're even providing a $50 gift card for them to do just that. So we believe that more opportunities and more access is how we're going to solve this long-term problem.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. The summer. We'll see what the summer holds, right? We're all looking forward to that, of course. Richard Gamble and Nathaniel Vietz Van Leer, thanks to you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, a tentative agreement for striking faculty at a local university. Details next.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabee family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Now to some more of today's top stories. Students and staff at Governors State University will be back in the classroom tomorrow after a week on strike. The union representing faculty says they've reached a tentative agreement that provides staff what they call fair compensation. Meanwhile, Chicago State University was back in the classroom today after a 10-day faculty strike. The union representing the teachers there says the tentative agreement would provide pay increases for staff while recognizing the university's financial constraints, according to the University Professionals of Illinois. Staff at Eastern Illinois University returned to the classroom last week after a 6-day strike, and faculty at Northeastern Illinois University has voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike.
Thousands of city drivers who got tickets might be in line for a refund. Attorneys today announced that a Cook County judge has granted class action status to a lawsuit alleging the city collected $20 million in illegally assessed traffic fines. The suit argues the tickets should have been handled in Cook County Court, but instead were adjudicated by the city's Administrative Hearings Department, which made it harder for motorists to contest. Attorneys on the case say the incoming mayor should give the money back.
They knew it was wrong. They knew they didn't get to take the money, but they kept taking it anyways for years, to the tune of millions of dollars from their own citizens. We want the city to give the money it knows it shouldn't have taken, give it back today.
Hurry up, the IRS tax filing deadline is tomorrow. I've got all mine in. I'm sure you do as well.
Obviously.
Yes, we're good on those deadlines. Tax day falls on Tuesday, April 18th this year. And if you feel like you're not going to get that return in under the closing bell, you might want to file an extension like right now. Yep, the IRS says it expects a total of more than 168 million tax returns to be filed this year.
The Gift of Hope Organ and Tissue Donor Network unveiled the renovation of a historic building in Chatham to continue bringing organ and tissue donation close to the communities disproportionately in need of them. The former Independence Bank building was dedicated in honor of longtime civic leader Jack Lynch.
Throughout my career, I have been blessed with something that is intangible from the standpoint I've been blessed with another day to make a difference.
Lynch is retiring at the end of April after 35 years at Gift of Hope, which is headquartered in Itasca. With funding support from the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, the nonprofit is completing a $10.9 million renovation on the building that once housed the nation's largest Black-owned bank. When opened, it'll serve as Gift of Hope's disaster recovery site, among other functions, as well as space for Chicago State University.
Coming up in the program, was one of Chicago's biggest companies corrupt or just connected? Amanda Vinicky joins us with a look at today in the ComEd trial.
But first, what's behind the wacky weather we're having? We speak to the state climatologist right after this. If you woke up this morning, looked out your window and wondered what is going on, you were not alone. Today's light snowfall and below freezing wind chills might be making last week's record-setting warm weather feel like a now distant memory. Joining us with more on this unpredictable weather is Trent Ford, Illinois state climatologist. Welcome back, Trent.
Hey, thanks, Brandis.
So why did it get super cold today following the warm weather that we just had?
Yeah, the two are actually related. So the warm weather last week was the result of a kind of persistent ridge, which is sort of a bulging northward in the jet stream that brings up warm air from the south and also lets air kind of sink from the top of the atmosphere down. So not only is the air warm, which it was last week, but it was also really dry. So we had days where the highs were in the 80s, but our relative humidity was 17, 18%, which is very rare any time of the year in Illinois, let alone in April. But on the back side of that ridge comes the trough. So when that ridge moves off to the east, the trough comes in, which is a dip in the jet stream, kind of southward, brings us cooler air. It also kind of guides low pressure systems, storm systems into this part of the country, and that's what happened. So with the cold air and the kind of precipitation bringer that the storm system was, it made for that kind of snow rain mix. And so, like I mentioned, the two are sort of related to each other.
Are these, sort of big shifts in the weather? Is this normal, or is it something we should be worried about?
Yeah, looking back on it, so the difference between today's high in Chicago and Saturday's was about 40 degrees, which is fairly rare, but it does happen about once every 10 to 15 years or so. And certainly we get 20 to 30 degree shifts over 1 to 2 days fairly commonly. Now, if we look at that by a month, actually April is the most common time of the year when we do get these big weather shifts. And that's because areas further to our south are warming up, and areas further to our north are still very cold from the wintertime. So we get kind of those clashes of air. So even though it seems like it was so extreme, this kind of change from one day to another this time of the year is actually fairly common. I think the big rarity was how persistent the warm weather was last week, making today's weather seem that much more anomalous.
And Trent, we've just got a few seconds left, but what should we expect for the rest of April?
I'm sorry, but it looks like the cooler weather is going to stick around. Not as cold as what we had today, but still below normal temperatures likely through the end of the month. But there's some, summer is coming, so it will get warm again soon.
That's what we hope every April and May. Trent Ford, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Brandis.
Paris.
PPP loans, those were part of the federal COVID relief package to keep small business afloat during COVID. Not surprisingly, many investigations have since found many recipients fraudulently nabbed some of those loans, most of which were designed to be forgiven. A new Cook County Inspector General report finds dozens of government employees participated in the fraud, as many as 48 alone in the Cook County Circuit Court Clerk's office. And Clerk Iris Martinez says she is personally offended by the fraud that's been uncovered. And she joins us now with more. Clerk Iris Martinez, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me here, Paul.
All right, so as we understand, 48 folks have left your office due to investigations into the PPP fraud. Does that mean that all 48 of them were found to have fraudulently gotten these loans?
So I was given a list of 55 individuals. I personally did not see the list. All I heard was that OIG gave us a list of 55 of our employees. I turned that over right away to the Inspector General because I have my own. He's our inspector, but he's very separated from our, because I want to make sure.
You have your office's Inspector General.
Right, and so we gave everything, and I told him that what I wanted was this to be a priority over everything else because of the fact that these individuals, first of all, when you come into the clerk's office, you take an oath. You take an oath, and I take this oath very seriously. And the fact that there was possibly, 55 individuals that might be involved in fraud in that office. To me, it was this has to be immediate because they're dealing with the public on an everyday basis. Our Inspector General did. So to today, out of the 55, 52 have been turned over to us. Out of that, we have one that was actually non-founded, which the person who actually was investigated actually presented the correct paperwork, everything verifying of what the loan that he took and the justification, while all the others lied along the way. I mean, I would get a report like every time 10 people would be interviewed, I will get the final report from the IG's office.
There's 1,400 total employees in your office.
And I'm very proud of them, right?
And this so a small percentage, but still a big number. Why do you think so many folks engaged in this?
Sometimes I can never explain people's behavior. I can say that the office has been under a very, dark cloud for many, many years. Coming in, I had to
You took
clean
over
up.
for Dorothy Brown, who has been under federal investigation for seemingly ever.
So to me, something like this right away in my administration presented to me about 55 possible, and I wanted to make sure that when the IG did deal with each individual, wanted to make sure that all the evidence, everything is there, and give them the opportunity also for them to give us documentation to prove otherwise. According to the reports that I got of individuals that were actually terminated, we had a few. So we had 23 that were terminated by us, but 16 of them resigned on their own without even being interviewed. 2 had already retired that were on that list, and we had 2 that had in the course and died. Because we have a very aging.
So again, to get these loans, you have to be a small business owner or part of a small business. Is it common for
or that you lost pay?
You lost pay.
And I can tell you that all of our clerks never lost pay during COVID.
So they were all paid.
They
and
were
all
all
government
paid,
employees kept
even
getting
though they
paid.
could have been sitting at home. They were getting paid. None of them ever lost 1 day of pay.
So what were they claiming they were deserving of this money for?
That they had secondary businesses, on their own on the weekends, because our clerks work every single day, and they claim that from hairstyling to barber shops to real estate. The thing is, they had to present to us the evidence, the paperwork that they needed to say, yes, I took this loan, and here's the paperwork backing up.
Do a lot of your employees do work on the side or have businesses on the side?
I don't have a set policy, which we're working on that now. I mean, when I came into that office, there were so many things that needed to be. We had to lay down a new foundation, and really, we didn't even have an HR.
You have a lot of digitizing of records to do, too.
We sure did, and we have done that. Like I said, we've really modernized as much as I possibly can, but for me, this office already had all these issues already there. To me, to come in and know that we have to clean house, when I get this kind of a report to 55 employees, especially when I have 1,500 employees, I'm very proud of the employees that we have that didn't engage in this. However, I will not stand by and know that a clerk actually lied on a federal application, and that there's no excuse for the lies unless you can back it up.
Clerk Iris Martinez, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
And back with more right after this. Ann Pramaggiore was one of Chicago's most high-profile executives, serving not only as CEO of ComEd, but as chair of the Federal Reserve Board of Chicago's Board of Directors and on the boards of DePaul University and Motorola. All of those titles are now gone and replaced with another defendant. Amanda Vinicky joins us now with the latest from the bribery trial of the so-called ComEd 4. Amanda, day 2 on the witness stand for one of the defendants here, Ann Pramaggiore.
Yes, Ann Pramaggiore Paris rose through the ranks at ComEd, becoming its CEO and then later CEO of Exelon Utilities. But the path that got her those promotions was also her downfall and could land her in prison. Of course, that's up to a jury, and Pramaggiore spent all day trying her best to prevent that from happening. She was the sole person on the witness stand today from about 10 until around 5.
That's a lot of time on the witness stand, plus she had a little bit of time on Thursday. So what did she say that really stuck out today?
Well, Paris, remember that at the heart of this trial is whether Pramaggiore and the 3 other defendants, that is lobbyist Jay Doherty, ComEd executive Jay Hooker, and Mike McLean, also a lobbyist, awarded jobs in an attempt to bribe Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan when Madigan was the powerful linchpin to getting bills passed through the state legislature. Pramaggiore flat out said they were not bribing Madigan, she was not part of a conspiracy, and that while she knew that Madigan was recommending hires through McLean, she said she rejected those suggestions about half the time. repeatedly. This is literally almost like the chorus of a song on playback. Pramajori's attorney asked her questions like, did she or ComEd consider Madigan an ally? She said no. Did Madigan or McLean ever say that Madigan would support ComEd in exchange for those hires? She said no. Did anyone ever say ComEd had extra influence with Madigan? She said no, and so on. You know, the defense also played back a call from 2019, and you're going to hear an edited clip of that. Pramajori didn't know ComEd's government relations senior VP, Fidel Marquez, was cooperating with the feds at the time, and so the call was wiretapped. On it, Marquez talks about subcontractors, a handful of Madigan-recommended hires who didn't get paid outright from the company, but rather through Doherty's lobbying firm. Marquez talks about how these subcontractors did no work.
Jay pretty much, well, he did say, well, you know, all these guys do is pretty much collect a check. And you should just leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Just leave it alone. Otherwise, things can go, you know, bad for us in Springfield. And John both talk about how this was set up by Frank Clark way back when, with Frank Olivo. He's a former alderman, and he's still on.
You hear Pramajori at the end there saying, oh my God. The defense clearly trying to establish that that was showing. This was news to her. She testified that until the investigation into ComEd became public, she didn't know this subcontractor business was happening. That as a CEO, she was too busy, that she signed contracts without reading the fine print, that she didn't read every email. She had people for that, and she trusted her deputies, like Marquez. She says it didn't cross her mind that there was anything potentially criminal. If anything, she thought it was poor management by Marquez.
Interesting. So how did all that go over?
Well, that is hard to say because later on that same call, Pramajori talks about how she doesn't think it is wise to do anything about that roster of lobbyists and subcontracted workers while the legislative session is ongoing. And that's because she didn't want to get, in that call she says, anyone's, as in Madigan's, quote, nose out of joint. There was a lot along these lines, sort of other side of calls that had been presented by prosecutors as nefarious, with the defense clearly trying to make the jury think on the contrary. ComEd got bills passed with a lot of hard work, including from Pramajori, and if anything, Madigan's staff was tough and not easy on the utility.
All right, 2 days now on the witness stand for Pramajori. Day 3 tomorrow? What do we
Day 3
expect?
tomorrow, yes, and that is when the real test will be there, because that is when prosecutors are going to get their first run at Pramajori with their cross-examination. We don't yet know at this point who else may thereafter take the witness stand for the defense, but the team of attorneys who are representing those defendants say that they do expect to be done with their side as soon as Thursday. So this could be wrapping up sooner than later.
Right. Closing arguments then perhaps early next week. Amanda Vinicky, keeping tabs on all this. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And now back to Brandis with a story about a local barber who found his new chapter at the public library. Brandis.
That's right, Paris. Public libraries can be a safe haven for those struggling with homelessness. That was the case for Samuel Brown, who credits libraries and the resources found within for turning his life around. From living on the streets to becoming a licensed barber, he's on a mission to pay it forward. Reporter Joanna Hernandez tells us more.
What's your name? Daniel. Daniel, I'm Sam.
He is known as Sam the Barber, traveling around Chicago giving free haircuts and making friends along the way.
Why didn't the skeleton cross the road?
I don't know, that was him.
He didn't have any guts.
A year ago, Sam started his nonprofit called Haircuts for Humane, an organization he now runs full-time.
It's like therapy, like when I cut hair, I'll be in a different place.
Life hasn't always been easy for Sam.
So how would you describe your upbringing?
It was harsh. I grew up in a single home, mother, 2 sisters younger than me. My mother was addicted to cocaine and she was an alcoholic.
He recently partnered with the Chicago Public Library for free haircut pop-ups across the city. Sam says local library branches were a safe haven for him when he was homeless.
I was playing the library to get heat,
Wow.
resources. So like,
It's something beautiful being able to give back in a place that did a lot for you, public libraries.
Yep, it did a lot. Like, it got me through, like, honestly.
Sam says his motivation behind helping others is his mother, who is in hospice.
She never gave up on me. She fighting for me right now. I saw her a few days ago, and she was just like, keep doing what you're doing in the world.
A fresh cut and human interaction.
People want somebody to listen to them sometimes, and they want to express, you know, what they've been through, because sometimes we all can be self-centered.
See you next time. Okay.
With an infectious smile, Sam says he wants to pay it forward the way people helped him along his journey.
I'm serving a purpose in life. What he got for me, it'll come.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Joanna Hernandez.
Sam Brown's next free haircut event is tomorrow at the Legler Regional Library from 12 to 6. Details on our website.
And that is our show for this Monday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing and get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night live at 10. The Great Resignation hits the Illinois Department of Public Health.
And a new show brings to life 1980s Chicago, seen through the eyes of gay black men. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm dedicated to preserving the dignity and rights of all individuals.